move away from Godzilla for a moment to the other person on the upcoming prize fight card. I am, of course, talking about Kong. While Godzilla may be the king of the monsters, Skull Island's favorite son is basically royalty too. Since 1933, this astonishing ape has scaled skyscrapers, dined on the freshest Skull Island sashimi, and proved that being one of the greatest movie monsters of all time absolutely is monkey business. So I'm going to follow a similar trajectory with this. I'm curious, tell me about your earliest memory of Kong. And Chris, let's start with you on this one.
Actually, my first memory of Kong was seeing and not appreciating it at the time, but seeing the 1933 one on TV before the Dino De Laurentiis 76 version. And seeing it was just kind of like, oh, that's cool. You know, you fought a dinosaur and fought another dinosaur, and that was great. But probably really seeing that 76 version in the theaters, and then buying the souvenir glasses. We won't name the franchise, the fast food place that had them, but just buying those glasses and just really being like, this is cool, because it was a good follow up to that first Godzilla movie I saw too.
Yeah, I know what you mean, especially about seeing, sometimes you need to see something in the right place at the right time, because I feel like the first time I saw that 1933 film, I was just like, where are the explosions? It's not like, what's going on here? But like now that I'm older and not a simple child, I'm like, wow, look at all the craftsmanship. Look at this story. Look at this movie that was so informative for everything that followed. Mm-hmm. But Jessica, tell me, what was your earliest memory of Kong?
My actually earliest memory of Kong was Universal Studios on the tram ride with my parents. So it wasn't even the movie. And I was already scared to death with the Jaws section of the ride. And I was sitting between my parents. And then when a giant, at the time, monkey is what you would know. We know he's an ape. At the time, like a giant primate monkey comes out, I freaked out. I lost it. I didn't know what was happening. I was upset. It was so cool and terrifying at the same time, but I didn't know exactly what was happening. So afterwards, my dad told me it's based off of a 1933 film, and he explained the concept of it. It was definitely a jarring memory, because afterwards he was like, well, then you should see the film so you can understand what the ride is based off of. But he was a little bit tickled that my first experience went so bad. It will forever be remembered and seared in my brain.
You didn't like the banana breath that they would have?
Did they pump in like banana scented?
They did, actually.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Then the ride burned down. Yes,
and the ride burned down right after that, and now it's a 3D version.
Oh yeah. The monster. I had like a similar. My first experience of Kong was like not seeing the movie, but it was to do with the movie. In London, they used to have this incredible museum that I think about on a daily basis, not an exaggeration, called the Museum of Moving Image. And it was on the South Bank, and it was basically like a cinema museum. And they had the real miniature from the 1933 movie on, and it was like totally like messed up, and you could see the inner skeleton and everything. But I really wanted to be a film director from when I was like 5 or something, and I realized it was a job you could do. I had like 20 dream jobs, but that was one of them. And I loved stop motion, so when I found out that was what it was, I had to watch it. And luckily I had a friend who was more open to watching that, and I remember getting a movie and seeing the sequence where like the dinosaur, like the T-Rex and Godzilla fight, and I just thought it was like, the T-Rex and Kong fight, and I just thought it was like the coolest thing in the whole world once I knew what it was.
Yeah, especially just like anytime they introduce more creatures, and like I'm like, we're going to talk about this a bunch, but I'm always a sucker for that kind of world building. It's nice to know that like not necessarily the only massive monster lurking out there in this world. And that's one of the things I loved about Kong Skull Island as well, is you really get the sense this is a world full of the unknown. It's the same thing that I think about when I think about like what's in the deepest, darkest part of the ocean. We don't know. We may never know. Is Godzilla down there? Potentially.
Hopefully.
We have some other folks in the chat sharing their memories as well. We have Summit Kaiju International saying, my first memory of Kong was the VHS of the 1962 film at the age of 2. That is some impressive recall. And also, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say that is that is good viewing for a 2-year-old, setting a good foundation. Who needs Veggie Tales when you can watch Kong in action? Vincent Schmidt says Kong coming out of a gas pump was brilliant. And Progress Pictures says, my favorite Godzilla Kong memory involves my late grandpa. As a kid, I'd pretend to be Godzilla and he'd be Kong. We'd reenact the movie monster battles. Hilarity ensued. I love to hear that. That's wonderful. Well, that brings me to my next question. Do you have a favorite iteration of Kong or a favorite Kong movie? Because for me, immediately what came to mind was King Kong versus Godzilla, hearing about that wonderful memory of you and your grandpa reenacting major motion picture battles. Jessica, let's start with you.
I actually, is the same as you, actually, that my favorite Kong film was the King Kong versus Godzilla. I do like Kong. I'm definitely more of a Godzilla fanatic. However, it was really my first experience in my mind of the closest I can get to a Batman versus Superman, where it's two titans going at each other. So to me, it was the first crossover before I knew what the word was experience that I had. So I do look forward to the new one coming out. But that one remains one of my favorites because I never thought in a million years, your little kid mind, that you're ever going to see that. So to actually see it it blew my mind as a child.
Yeah, I mean, like even today, it just like it still holds up because you're just like, it's the first time these characters who had kind of fallen out of prominence on the big screen for a little bit, they came back, and not only did it rejuvenate Godzilla, but you got to see Godzilla on screen together with King Kong. Like, how cool was that? And I'm going to be doing an upcoming episode of Explainiac about this topic as well. One of my favorite little bits of trivia about this is that originally it wasn't even going to be Kong versus Godzilla. It was going to be Kong versus Frankenstein.
Giant Frankenstein. I still live to see that version. I think about it all the. I'm like, I wish I could. I love King Kong versus Godzilla. Also my favorite. Even though Kong Skull Island is my favorite iteration of Kong, because kind of like Jessica was saying, I think like the emotion is there, the heart. But yeah, I still dream of Kong versus Frankenstein. It's just too wild.
Yeah, I mean, you get they later, you get Prometheus later on, but I just love the idea that they're like, who would be an excellent opponent, but how do we size him up? But anyway, I digress. Chris, tell me, do you have a favorite iteration of Kong or a favorite Kong movie?
Actually, favorite iteration has got to be the original. Like I said, it was the first one I saw. I didn't really realize it or respect it as much as I should have. Later on, it's just, to me, it's one of the greatest adventure stories. One of the greatest love stories. Reminds me actually personally a lot of my own love life. I've never been shot off a building though, so that's totally fine. But just for the goofiness of it, probably King Kong Lives. I remember being so excited when that was coming out in the theater, and I went to see it, and I was like, what's going on? Now there's a lady Kong, and Kong ate a hunter, and he's like picking a hat out of his teeth, and there's just so much like weird, cool stuff for like a kid growing up that it's got a soft spot for me for sure. But I do like the original very much. Just it's the same thing as the original Godzilla. It's just such a timeless and classic film.
Yeah, I have to say the goofiness reminded me of it. Was it King Kong Escapes where he fights Mechani-Kong?
Yes, yeah.
With the very not the BBC version built by the other Doctor Who, except no substitutes. Yeah. See, I mean, as a lifelong comic book fan, I always love a good, seemingly preposterous plot twist. So that definitely has a near and dear place in my heart. But Rosie, you mentioned that Skull Island was your favorite?
Yeah, I think that's my favorite iteration. Like King Kong versus Godzilla is a good cheat for me because I do love Godzilla a little bit more than King Kong. So, but for iteration, I think that Kong Skull Island, we rewatched it recently for we did a live tweet. And I felt like it summed up everything that makes King Kong so popular, which is like, it subverts some of the older tropes which come from making a movie from 1933, which is good, but the Kong character is still the same character. He's loving, he's caring, he's protective, he's wild, it's just such an interesting emotional take which you get from the technology. I'm a diehard for Godzilla and any really kaiju or tokusatsu. I'm a diehard suits person. I love the suits and I'll never pick the CG over them. But in the conversation of Kong, I felt like that really made the movie really profoundly kind of emotional to have that. And you could even tell, even from the Peter Jackson movie, which was obviously the first step towards that, where they've gone with Kong Skull Island is just so deep. There's such a depth of character there. You want to see, they really did build up a character that you want to see face down against this Godzilla. You know who they both are. It's not just two random monsters anymore, you know? These are two people who have character, who have history, and I mean, two monsters who have character, have history, and are probably going to team up, let's be real. But first, I want to see them beat each other up, obviously.
Look, first they have to overcome their differences, and then they can lay the smackdown on whomever may have angered both of them. Yeah, I do really love Kong Skull Island, and I picked up so much more of an appreciation for it on this most recent viewing when we did that watch along. Just looking at all the little details they sprinkle in there from a world building perspective for the larger MonsterVerse. I love the fact that it's a period film, but then you just get one of the best intros of all time where, you know, just all of these, like, it's this like Vietnam movie gone horribly awry where it just starts swatting all of these helicopters out of the sky like they're just little flies. It's just
Doesn't waste
so
time.
well done.
Yeah. And also like anything that has an Akira jacket in, I love Akira so much. So as soon as I saw that, and I was in the middle of making my own Akira jacket, so as soon as I saw that, I was just like, that's so cool. Like, but it's not like it's not the over heavy, like this is an Easter egg. It's like built into the world. And if you notice it, it's like, hey, we like this. We like the same things, you know? And I thought it was so much fun when we watched it together. It was great.
Yeah.
It was also refreshing. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say it was also refreshing because it's not a remake or sequel. So it's refreshing in that way. And again, like Rosie was saying, you can connect with him more because our technology has advanced. So again, he looks like young-ish, but like it's still a tired old man who just wants to do right. So I think kind of having a new refreshing take on it also really helps.
I mean, to be fair, you would be a little exhausted too if these newcomers just woke up all the skull crawlers on the island after you had just finally gotten to a nice place. You're a teenager. You don't want to do your chores. You just want to like go around eating octopi. But no, lo and behold, these pesky monarch agents had to come and ruin everything. But yeah,
this time without his parents, right?
Exactly.
Basically, just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a cool 1-bedroom cave somewhere. He's just living on his own.